Since 2020 is upon us, it's only fitting that I rank my top 10 NBA players of this decade. This list will be based on who was able to maintain play the best throughout the 2010s. That means maybe an all-time great like Shaq will not be included in this list even though he retired in 2011. I hope that makes sense. It is only taking into account how they played this decade and not who had the best total career. All of these are my personal opinion, and if you do end up disagreeing with some of my spots, please leave a comment telling me what you would have done differently. This is going to be a good one, so make sure to stick around to hear what I have to say. Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Story of S.A.M back again with a brand new video. We are ranking the top 10 players of the decade. If you are brand new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button because I upload videos just like this all the time and I have a lot planned for 2020 that I know you don't want to miss. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. Let's aim for 10 likes. I know we can do it. Without further ado, let's start ranking these players. Coming in at the number 10 spot, I put Carmelo Anthony. This pick is going to be very controversial, but hear me out. I don't want to punish Melo for being on a bad team the majority of his career. I think he gets a very bad rep and a lot of people forget how good Melo really was. If you disagree, I completely understand. Tell me where you think Melo should be in the comments, but I'm sticking with 10 for now. This is the guy who averaged 28.7 points per game and won the scoring title that season. He was good for about 7 rebounds per game and a couple of assists. I really wish Melo would have had some finals experience or even just some playoff experience at that, because then I could get a much more accurate representation of him. He made his comeback season and he is not playing that bad at all, averaging 16 points per game despite everyone hating on him and saying he was trash because of what happened in Houston, and I think he is super underrated now just because nobody is respecting his game. There is a debate on whether he was better in New York or in Denver. He only played 1 year in the Nuggets during the 2010s, so that season is the only one in conversation for the list, but I think he was around the same in both Denver and New York. Moving on to the number 9 spot, I put Chris Paul. He has probably been the best passer of the decade, averaging 9 to 10 assists per game over a 10-year span, and even though he didn't win any championships, there is no debate he is one of the best players of the decade. The closest he came to winning a chip was with the Lob City Clippers, including Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, CP3, and many more. I'm not saying this was his prime, but it was definitely up for debate because in my opinion, he was putting up better numbers on the New Orleans Hornets. I'm sure that's something you haven't heard in a long time. Chris Paul is currently on the Thunder and he's still putting up pretty good numbers, better than I was expecting after last year in Houston, but there is no question he is on the tail end of his career and likely won't play much longer, but he has played great in the time frame and a consistent point guard with one of the highest basketball IQs we have ever seen in the game's history. For number 8 on this list, I put Kawhi Leonard. I did some research on what other people ranked him for this list and I saw a lot of people had him at 5, which I think is very generous. The reason for this is that Kawhi didn't really start being considered as a star until 2016 in my opinion. He was playing in the shadows of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Ginobili for years, and for the sake of this list, I just can't put him any higher than 8 for that reason. He did win the Finals MVP in 2014, which I don't know why he won. He definitely didn't deserve it, and he gets way too much credit for that. Although last season with Toronto, he played amazing, leading the Raptors to their first championship of all time with a historic playoff run, hitting a game-winning buzzer beater versus the Sixers in Game 7, beating Giannis Antetokounmpo and leading the Bucks in 6 games, despite losing the first 2, and then they won 4 straight, which is very impressive. And then in the finals, they beat the Golden State Warriors without KD or Klay Thompson. If the Warriors were completely healthy, I think Toronto would have been done in 5, but it ended with Kawhi winning his second Finals MVP with a second team. That's why I have Kawhi at 8. Moving on to number 7, I put Dwayne Wade. Wade can literally do it all as a shooting guard, and he put up some great numbers even though throughout the early years of the decade, he had LeBron James and Chris Bosh playing alongside him, which might make his stats look worse than they actually were, but he did some great things. He won back-to-back NBA championships with the Heat in 2012 and 2013, and he was a huge part of that big 3. He did start to see some wear and tear on his body around the 2018 season, where his numbers really started to drop off, and he started getting injured a good amount, only playing 21 games in 2018. Keep in mind that he was 36 years old at the time, so it's not like his numbers just dropped off out of the blue. You can only play at a high level for so long. He's another guy that just didn't really have any weaknesses, and for that reason and all the championships, he comes in at number 7. Moving on to number 6, we have Anthony Davis. He's been a consistent 25 and 10 guy for many years now, and he has proven that he is the best power forward in the game today. He also has no weaknesses on the court, and he's one of the best defenders in the league. In my opinion, he is probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, averaging 2.6 blocks and 1.4 steals per game, and he has had similar numbers to the other seasons. His first season was the 2012-2013 season, so it is super impressive how he made it on the list, while not even playing the whole decade. He can stretch the floor with his three-point shooting even though he's having a down year shooting a long ball. For his career, he is shooting 31%, which is good enough to be respected and someone you can't let shoot wide open threes or else he will make you pay. He is a great free throw shooter at 86% this season, and overall, he just has to be number 6 in my opinion. He doesn't get the credit he deserves due to him being in a small market when he played for New Orleans. Now, moving on to number 5, I put Russel Westbrook. I think this is the perfect spot for him. He averaged a triple-double in 3 straight seasons, which is just insane to me, and I feel like nobody cared after he did it the first time. He won MVP in 2017 when he first did it. He has 2 scoring titles and 2 assist titles. One thing that I do have to say about Russ, he is the definition of a choker in the playoffs.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And I'm sure that even Westbrook fans will agree with me on this one. He has lost in the first round of the playoffs with the Thunder 3 straight seasons, but I do think he will break that this year playing alongside James Harden, but still, he has not performed well in big moments and you cannot deny it. He's also a pretty big stat pattern, and there are many clips of him passing up wide open shots when he has 9 assists late in the game just because he really wants to get that triple-double. It's not necessarily a bad thing, he just needs to make sure he puts his team's success over his own. Either way, he's an amazing player and deserves this spot. Moving on to number 4, we have Westbrook's teammate, James Harden. It was really hard deciding who was better, Harden or Westbrook for this decade, but I definitely think Harden was, just because his teams have gotten to the Western Conference Finals a lot and might have even won a championship if it wasn't for the Warriors just having much more talent on their team. James Harden is averaging 38.3 points per game this season, which is just ridiculous. He now has averaged 25 plus points per game since 2013, and I don't think anyone in the league has done that other than maybe LeBron. And Harden isn't just a scorer. He has won an assist title in 2017, averaging 11.2 dimes per game in that season. He can do it all and is the perfect example of someone who can run the 7-second offense perfectly, and his step-back threes become one of the most iconic moves in NBA history, and he has made multiple people fall when hitting three-pointers in their face. And for all those reasons, he comes in at the number 4 spot. Moving on to number 3, I picked Stephen Curry. He is the best three-point shooter of all time, shooting 43.5% from beyond the arc for his entire career. He has won 3 NBA championships with the Warriors. He started a super team with him, KD, Clay, and Draymond. He doesn't have a Finals MVP. I think he got snubbed in 2015 when Iggy won it, really. Curry has won 1 scoring title when he averaged 30.1 points per game, and he won back-to-back MVPs in 2015 and 2016 when he won it unanimously. He has great passing vision and overall just the best point guard of the entire decade, and I'm sure you agree. He is also the best free throw shooter of all time with a career average of 90.5% from the charity stripe. He is currently hurt and expected to be reevaluated in February. But overall, Curry is super efficient and I couldn't think of anyone else more qualified for number 3. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Kevin Durant. He's easily one of the best players of all time, and numbers-wise, he is better than Curry. He has 4 scoring titles and is known as probably the best scorer in basketball. He's an extremely efficient player, always shooting above 50% from the field, and usually shooting above 40% from deep, and an occasional 90% free throw shooter. He is a 6'11" player that can dribble the ball like guards and shoot over you a ton. He has 2 NBA championships with the Warriors, but he won Finals MVP both years, so that is why I'm putting him over Curry. KD has been good for so long now on OKC to Golden State, and he has won 1 MVP award, and everyone knows he is amazing. There isn't much debate, but I will say I was not a fan of his move to Golden State, and I will still call him a snake to this day, and I'm sure a lot of people will as well. That's why I have Kevin Durant at number 2. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the man, the myth, the legend, drumroll please, Brian Scalabrine. But in all seriousness, we have LeBron James. There is no discussion in my opinion. He has dominated the decade with 3 NBA championships, 4 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, and just so much more. He has 1 scoring title, and this year he's on track to get an assist title. He is currently averaging 10.8 assists per game. The 2016 Finals are just the most amazing thing ever, coming back from a 3-1 deficit and getting his iconic block on Iggy and bringing a championship to Cleveland. He dropped the back-to-back 41-point games in Game 5 and Game 6 of the 2016 Finals. The 2016 season just has to be the best season of the 2010s. So much history was made. LeBron also had back-to-back championships in Miami with the Big 3. His 2018 playoff performances with multiple 40-point games and buzzer beaters, bringing probably the worst roster ever to the NBA Finals. He has just had the greatest decade by far, and even LeBron haters know it's true. Everything I just mentioned was the reason LeBron James is the best player of the 2010s. He just won Male Athlete of the Year a couple days ago as the icing on the cake. Anyways, guys, that is all I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed it. It took me forever to make, but before we go, I have some honorable mentions. Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Kyrie Irving, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Blake Griffin, and there's also a lot more. These are just the top ones. It was extremely hard to narrow it down to just 10 players. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to smash that subscribe button because I'm on the road to 400 subs and all help is appreciated. Make sure to drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it. Comment down below what you would change in my list. Happy 2020, everybody. It's been Story of Sam, and I'm out.